Okay, well, I want to thank you for the opportunity to bring this series forward. It's really kind of you, and I hope it becomes meaningful to the people who have followed the series. Um, Tonight is your opportunity to obtain answers to questions that you may have regarding Winlink. We have several members of our Winlink development team here. If Phil is kind, he'll stand back and let some of these other people respond to these questions. But this is in regard to the use and operation of Winlink. There aren't any dumb questions. There are no simple questions. The simple questions that you may be hesitant to ask are the same questions that other people are hesitant to ask, so nobody gets the answer. So please don't hesitate, even though you think that it may be a dumb question, please ask it, because the response will benefit of many people here, probably all of us. So let me talk a little bit about Phil Sherrod. Phil is an old man like me.
Amen. That's true.
He dyed his hair black, but it keeps growing out gray. Phil is a licensed extra class ham, W4A PHS. Phil is a volunteer examiner. He teaches general class ham licenses and the math portion of the extra class in Williamson County, Tennessee, which is a suburb of Nashville. He has a BA in physics and math from Vanderbilt University, who, in my opinion, having worked there for 9 years, that's like having a PhD from anywhere else. He was the chief of programming and software development at Vanderbilt's IT department for years. Then he, in 1975, started his own company and developed internet service provider software and a Usernet user group reader. Both products are used by the government and in corporations worldwide. Phil also developed the DTREG, which we can talk about another time, predictive modeling software that builds statistical mathematical models using neutral networks, support vector machines, polynomial networks, and other types of models. DTREG is in use in more than 100 government research labs, universities, and commercial companies, and other programs that I think there are probably over 100,000 sites using that software. So he is has his own company and develops software through that company. Phil is active in the Department of Homeland Security CISA Shares program, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency's Communications Unit, and the Williamson County, Tennessee Reserve team. Phil is a developer about Winlink and all of this mathematical and modeling. Phil is a developer of the radio-only no network HF mesh system that is current developer. He's the current developer for RMS Relay, RMS Tri-Mode, RMS Packet, and Winlink Express Client. Phil also provides programs that use Winlink statistics. The radio-only arm of Winlink came about as a result of our adoption by the Department of Homeland Security Cyber Protectorate. That was a mandated requirement. So we asked Phil to continually develop that program, which he may want to discuss if there are questions regarding that. So Phil, go ahead. Tonight there are members of the development team here, several that operate the that are moderators for the reflectors that we have, and then there's some board members of our Amateur Radio Safety Foundation here. So if you need any help with those mathematical models, just call on one of us.
Wow, I didn't know all those things about myself, Steve. I think we need to adjourn right now because it's going to be all downhill after that introduction. Thank you, Steve. Steve is the administrator of Winlink, and I'm not sure what other Winlink development team members we have on. Steve, who's on besides us?
Well, I recognized Laura, our our president, and I recognize Thomas Noel, Dr. Noel from Oregon. And then we've got Gordon Gibby, and several other people here that we've been, and we've got Jim from East Tennessee's here.
Okay.
Just a lot of different people. I mean,
Okay.
they're
Okay, good.
coming in here.
Well, this is kind of a funny session because I mean, normally I have a PowerPoint prepared for presentation and have an agenda, but Steve says, well, we just wanted to have a question and answer session. And I said, well, that's fine, but I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about. So Steve said, well, don't worry about it. Everybody will ask questions.
What I would like to do is ask Dan to, if he would moderate the questions with the hand raising, little hand raising business they have there, because I'm not that proficient in it, and he does this twice a week. So Dan, would you mind taking the questions with the hand raise mechanism?
Okay, I also have some helpers out there. I get my picture up there. I also have some helpers out there for this kind of stuff. Maybe I'll get my picture off there.
Well,
Anyway.
while we're getting the questions started, and if you have questions, go ahead and send them to Dan. But one of the things that Steve suggested I cover in anticipation of a message is talking about the difference between conventional Winlink messages, radio-only messages, and peer-to-peer messages, and how you send each one, when it's appropriate to use them, and what are the pros and cons of them. So I'm going to share my screen. At least I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Let's see here. See if I can do this. Okay, let's see here. I don't know, am I sharing it or not? I can't tell.
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right, well, I'm going to see here. I'm opening Winlink Express. Let me see here. Let me get it open and see if everybody can see it. There we are. Can everyone see Winlink Express on my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, this is the best way, I think, to explain the three types of messages by looking about how you create each type. We can talk about when it's appropriate to use them. I'm sure everyone here is, or at least I assume everyone here is familiar with Winlink Express and the basic process of sending and receiving messages. So we'll go over that. But when you open the message composition screen, which looks like this, let me resize it a little bit. And you type in, of course, who you're sending it to, the subject, and attachments and the body of the message. But here you have a drop down, and we've got three different types of message: a Winlink message, radio only, and a peer-to-peer. And I'm going to post a message, each type of message to myself. I'll tell you what, let me make it Steve. So we'll say K4CJX. This will be a conventional, or a Winlink, we'll call it a conventional message. Okay, so this I'm sending as a Winlink message, which is going to mean it's going to go to a CMS. I'll post that to the outbox. And then let's do another one. And again to Steve, K4CJX. And we'll call this a radio only. And we'll post that, select radio only, don't make that mistake. So now I've got radio only message, post that to the outbox. And finally, I'm going to do a peer-to-peer, K4CJX, peer-to-peer message. And select up here, peer-to-peer message, and post that to the outbox. Now let's look at the outbox. We've got the three messages. And what I want to show you here is that all of them are queued up, and they have the recipient K4CGX for all of them. But notice after K4CGX, one of them, the radio only one, has RO in parentheses. The peer-to-peer messages has P2P in parentheses, and the conventional Winlink message has nothing in parentheses after it. The conventional message is going to go by one means or another. It could be Telnet, it could be Pactor, it could be Vara, or Winmore, or RDOT. By one of the means or the other, it's going to go into either, if it goes by radio, it's going to go into try mode. And try mode is simply going to be an interface to pass it on to our common message server, CMS, which is hosted by Amazon. So whichever means you send it, Telnet, Pactor, or any of the other modes, it's going to go ultimately go to the CMS, a common message server, hosted by Amazon, and be stored there in the master database until it's received by the other person. Now let's talk about the radio-only message, what would happen with it. The radio-only message is not going to go to a CMS. It's going to be sent into an RMS, and it doesn't matter which RMS you connect to, as long as it is operating as a hybrid RMS, that is one capable of handling radio-only messages. Not all RMSs are capable of handling radio-only messages, particularly in the ham bands. When you're operating with shares, all shares RMSs operate as hybrid RMSs. So there's no question. But on the ham bands, maybe a quarter of them operate as hybrid RMSs. The rest of them are not capable of handling radio-only traffic. When you open a Pactor or a VARA session and open the channel selection screen, if you have opened a radio-only session, you will see only the RMS list that has RMS capable of receiving and handling radio-only messages. If you open a Winlink type session, you'll see all the RMSs, both the hybrid ones and the non-hybrid ones. When you send a radio-only message, the message is intercepted by the RMS that it goes into. It is not passed on through it to a CMS the way a conventional message is. The message is held in a local database by that RMS, and then after your connection is finished, it is passed by Pactor forwarding or VARA forwarding to other RMSs until it finally reaches the message pickup station, or MPS for the recipients. So the big difference here is the conventional message is going to go to a CMS on Amazon and be stored in its database. The radio only is not going to a CMS, it's going into an RMS local database and then being passed by radio relaying rather than going through the internet to a CMS. The final mode, peer-to-peer, is when you're making a direct radio connection between your machine and another machine running Winlink Express. In that case, you're not going through an RMS, you're not going to a CMS, you're transferring the message directly from the Winlink Express database on your machine into another copy of Winlink Express on the recipient's machine where it's stored directly in their message database. So it's a direct radio-only, radio-to-radio connection. It's like talking simplex. A simplex phone connection would be the best way to put it, rather than going through a repeater. Now, when you open a session to make a connection, I don't have a radio on here, so I can't, it's going to start complaining if I open a Pactor session because there's no Pactor mode on radio. But you choose the type of session here. Like here's a Pactor Winlink session. That would be a session to go to a CMS. Down here would be a Pactor radio only session. That would be to send into an RMS, send a radio only message into RMS. And of course here we have a Pactor peer-to-peer session. When I make one of those types of connections and it logs in and shakes hands and it gets ready to send any messages that I have, it only sends the type of messages that are match the type of this connection. So if I made a Pactor P2P, peer-to-peer connection to Steve's computer right now, and we connected, linked up, and we're shaking hands, and I'm talking directly to Steve's computer, it would then send this P2P message. It would not send the radio-only message. It would not send the conventional message, only the peer-to-peer. If I disconnect from Steve and open a Winlink Pactor session up here, Pactor Winlink, make a connection to an RMS, which forwards my connection onto a CMS. Then when it's ready to send the message, it's going to send the conventional message. It would not send a peer-to-peer, it would not send a radio only. And similarly, if I make a radio only connection, back to radio only, it's only going to send the radio only message, it's not going to send the others. Okay, now, so I hope that you got the idea here. If there's any confusion, take note of it and we'll discuss it in the questions period. But those are the three types of messages you can send. Now the question is, when should you use each type of message? Well, for 99.9% of what you're going to be doing, either on a day-by-day basis or during an incident, you should use a conventional message method, the conventional type message, which goes through an RMS and is stored on a CMS. There are many, many advantages to doing that over radio only. Once you do that, and it's stored on the CMS, then the recipient can connect to any RMS in the world and receive their message. If you send it radio only, then they're forced to connect to their message pickup station to receive their message. There's also a significant time delay in sending a radio only message because it has to be forwarded by Pactor from one RMS to another RMS to another RMS to reach the message pickup station. If some of the RMSs on that path are down, it retries them and eventually gives up and routes around them, but that all takes time. So instead of the message being available essentially immediately for the recipient to pick up, if you send it radio only, it may be minutes or in extreme cases, could even be hours before it's actually stored on the message pickup stations for the recipient to pick it up. The only time you would use radio only is for testing, playing with it. It's kind of fun to send radio only messages as an experiment, that's fine. Or if the entire worldwide internet's down and it's impossible to get to a CMS by connecting to any RMS. That has never happened. If it ever does happen, it's the end of civilization. Get your guns and food and head for a cave because it's going to be all over. So remember that it does exist as a possibility, but put it on in the back of your mind. And just because you have lost internet, let's say Puerto Rico has another hurricane, lost all communication, all internet, everything on the island, and you get sent down to Puerto Rico as part of a radio team, and you're using Winlink, use conventional messages, connect, make a Pactor or VARA connection from Puerto Rico to a stateside RMS, could be Florida, could be North Carolina, could be Texas, could be Mexico even. Whatever you can get into, make an RF connection into one of those RMSs and send and receive conventional messages. Do not use radio only. We've had incidents where people got confused about that and thought mistakenly that just because they were in a no internet zone, they had to use radio only messages. That is not correct. All you have to do is make a radio connection to an RMS somewhere else that has internet, and it will be very difficult to find a situation where you can't reach some RMS that has internet. So that's the basic. Now, when we use peer-to-peer, well, peer-to-peer, let's say that you're at a Red Cross shelter somewhere in town, and you've got a lot of traffic going back and forth with Red Cross headquarters. You could send it conventional, or you could have a peer-to-peer connection directly to the Red Cross headquarters and do that so you're not tying up RMS in the area. That's about the only case I can think of peer-to-peer. It's not used much. Basically, conventional messages are what you want to use for nearly all of your communication. And I think that's about all I got to say. I mean, we'll see if there are any questions that come up about that.
Well, Barry, I see a lot of questions in the chat area. You want to attach those?
Okay, we'll start. Let's see. Could you create the link that answers how do I put the folders on a thumb drive to use on my desktop, CP, and my laptop?
Well, so what you want to do is transport all the messages out of Winlink Express and get them. You know, that's an interesting question. I don't know if we got any good way to do that. I'll show you one feature. It's not gonna do what he wants, but let me show you what we do have. Let's see, let me find it here. Let's see here. Okay, where is it? It's export messages. Okay, somebody help me find it. Maybe it's under messages. Here we go. Okay, well, we've got a couple of things. We've got export messages might do it. Let's take a look and see. Let me select some messages here. Hold on. Let me go back to, well, let's see here. Let's get some messages and try this. Okay, now let's go to message. Let's go to export messages. And let's go to C:\export.txt. And let's see what we get here. See if that is what you want. Okay. Now let's take a look and see what I got in this export file. So this PC on C, go down to test. Okay. And let me, it's hard to see this way. Let's see, where's view? View. Details. Now, where's export? Export. Well, it exports as an XML file, so this is not what you want. Yeah, I don't think we have that. That is the messages. Let me explain what this is for. I mean, it's potentially could import that source. That's not the kind of format you want it in. What this is really for is transferring messages to another machine, to a different computer. If you go here and you do the export messages and create that XML file like I showed you, and then put that XML file in a thumb drive and take it to a different computer. On the other computer, you can do import messages, and it'll prompt for the file. Then you give it that XML file you exported, and it will be imported into the Winlink Express on the destination machine. And when they're imported, they're put into the same folders that they were exported from originally. So inbox, outbox, read items, or personal folders and so forth. So that export and import is a way of transferring messages from Winlink Express to Winlink Express, preserving all of their attributes, dates, to, from, everything else completely. But it's not something you could use to export them in a fashion that you could then view them on another computer. So I think the bottom line is we don't have anything that would really satisfy that request.
Okay. I hope that answers the question. Okay, the next question is, are there any plans to support only messages via AX.25 packet?
Well, we do support AX25 packet. Well, we do support AX25 packet for packet connections.
Okay.
Am I missing something in the question?
I don't know, that's what he said. I'm just only reading what he said. I assume it's for radio only?
Oh, no, we're not going to do radio only on a packet.
Okay.
No,
that's
no.
Okay. Let's see now. Is there any way to send a radio only message by VHF into a hybrid gateway for forwarding by radio only?
Oh, the only way to do that would be to have the hybrid gateway set so that the internet connection is turned off. And you can do that in the software. You don't have to physically disconnect from the machine. But if RMS Relay is configured, or there's an option inside RMS Relay to say simulate internet outage. If you check the box to simulate an internet outage so that it's impossible for it to connect to a CMS, then it automatically goes into forwarding mode. Now, it's not going to be radio only, but what it would do is it would receive the message from the packet station, store it temporarily, and then send it by HF to another RMS as a message to reach a CMS. So it's not going to be converted into radio only message, but it would go by RF to get out of the local area to another RMS, and that other RMS would send it up to a CMS. So the answer is there's no way to send a radio-only message via packet or FM.
Okay. Is anyone aware of any other digital mode in development using OFDM similar to Vera? If so, talk about what development stage it's in.
I don't. Laura, do you know anything?
Not on the handbands.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Know that the RMS that you are sending to is not just internet.
Okay, when you connect to an RMS that does not have internet, a warning message pops up on your screen. It's quite prominent right in the middle of your screen, and it says you're connecting to an RMS that cannot reach a CMS. Do you want to, I think it gives a little more warning, like messages may be delayed because they have to be forwarded by RF. It says something like that. And then it asks you, do you want to continue the connection? And you can say yes or no. So, I mean, you might want to go ahead, but normally I would suggest saying no, and then connecting to a different RMS, trying to find one that has internet.
Okay. Now, one is if I receive a radio-only message on MPS number 1, do I have to connect with MPS number 2 and get it again?
No, you do not. The message, all of the message databases have an expiration period. Well, I think it's a couple of weeks. I can't remember. I think the sysop can actually set it to the period he wants. But if a message is not picked up after some period of time, whatever the sysop specifies, it's automatically expired and deleted. So the second copy of the message would sit there on the other MPS for a while, and then eventually just be expired and deleted.
If the individual went to the second RMS that is his message pickup station, it would not duplicate that delivery because the Winlink Express would tell the second RMS that that message has already been sent, and it would go away.
Correct.
Okay. And
I'll
so
go back there.
it's about looking at the Winlink RMS map under the Tools menu and notice that the numerous RMS gateways are now sponsored by the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union. Those are 24/7 and always available for U.S. stations. And then someone has a question about forwarding with the hybrid system.
Okay, what's the question?
Okay, he has a question about forwarding. How do you forward with a hybrid system? I guess. I don't.
Well,
really...
it's automatic. If you send a message into the hybrid system, all the hybrid RMSs know what the message pickup stations, what the MPSs are for every user. So when a message goes into an RMS, it figures out what the MPSs are for the recipient or recipients, and then automatically computes the optimum path to get there and starts forwarding along that path to get to the MPSs.
Okay. There was a comment about Vera FM working on Linux using Line. Do you know if there's a guide to doing that?
I do not.
Okay.
You can go to the Winlink website, and there is on the support page, there's a reflector that deals with that. That's where you would find that. The Winlink development team is not involved in that, but
Right.
there is another group that is, and they can answer that question.
Okay, great. Thank you. If both sender and recipient are in a no internet area, but not within radio range of each other, wouldn't radio only be the appropriate means to move a message between them?
No, you'd still use conventional. You would simply connect to an RMS that has internet. And I am in Tennessee, but I mean, I can get into Canadian stations. I can get into Mexican stations. I can certainly get to Texas. I could get to Idaho or Illinois or Michigan. So, you know, if the internet's out all the way from, let's say, Tennessee to Canada, and from Tennessee to Colorado, then we're in deep trouble. But normally from Tennessee, I could reach any number of RMSs that have internet, even if you know, several states around me don't have internet. And similarly, if the recipient, let's say the recipient's in California doesn't have internet because some fire has burned all their fiber optic cables, then they would simply connect to a station in Colorado or Utah or Washington that has internet and pick up their message, or they could go even further out than that if they needed to. They go to Texas or, you know, whatever. So it's with HF radio, it's almost impossible unless the whole world is on fire not to be able to connect to an RMS that has internet and retrieve conventional messages.
Okay. Let's see. Someone wants to know why if they can send a Winlink message using a gateway to himself. Can the sender and the recipient be the same person?
They can, but you won't receive the message. And the reason is when you send a message, the message ID, that's that string of about 10 random letters and digits, is stored in a message database. And if you connect and download your own message, when the message is proposed to you, it sends the message ID, and Winlink Express looks and says, oh, I've already got that message. I don't need it again. And it says, don't worry about it. Just delete that message. Don't bother sending it. It's already gotten it. So it won't receive it. So you're going to have to, if you had like a ham and a shares call sign, you could send a message from your ham call sign to shares and pick it up on shares. That would be okay. But if you try to pick it up under the same call sign, it'll be detected as a duplicate and not received the second time.
And there's one other little trick. There's an address called test, T-E-S-T, test@winlink.org. Send a message to test, and it will be reflected back to your account directly, and you will receive that.
I did not know that.
Okay. Yeah, and it also keeps the bandwidth down a little bit too.
Right.
Okay. Will Winlink work under Alnico DR135 with a built-in TNC?
I don't know what that is. Laura, do you know what you're talking about?
Yes, it will. Unfortunately, though, those built-in TNCs are true terminal node controllers, but they've been designed for APRS. And APRS message links are quite short compared to what is normally transported by Winlink. So basically, we've made some provisions to be able to support those TNCs that are built into the machines, but we have some extra buffering that's required. Unfortunately, their hardware buffers are very small, and it requires a lot of message overhead between the computer and the radio to get those messages back and forth. You can't. We do work with those, but they're not recommended.
Okay. And when you check request message receipt, does the receipt come automatically, or does the receiver of the message to send an acknowledgement?
Yeah, let me show you the options on that. Share my screen again. Let's see here. I'll show you some options. Okay, here we are back in Express. And what he's talking about is when you compose a message. Come on, compose a message. Okay, it's this checkbox here, request message receipt, that you can check. And it flags the message. It's like requesting a read receipt when you send a message, or delivery receipt when you send a message from Outlook. There are several options here. Let's go over here into settings. And let's see, I think it's under preferences. Here they are. Yeah, under preferences, there's a whole block of options here related to message acknowledgement options. Hope you can read this. First one is default to requesting message receipts. If you check that, it will automatically check that box on the sending screen to request a message receipt. Second one is automatically send message receipts when requested. If you do that, then if you receive a message and the message has requested a receipt, it will automatically queue one up in the outbox without bothering you. It just does it. As soon as you look at the message, you have to view the message. It doesn't do it when it comes in. It does it when the message is opened on your screen. But when the message is opened on your screen, we don't know if your eyes looked at it or not. We know you at least displayed it on your screen, and it requested a receipt, then the receipt is put in the outbox automatically. Doesn't ask you, it just does it. Now you can edit the outbox, but it's going to be placed in the outbox automatically. The next one is automatically send message receipts for all messages. That means it's going to generate a receipt whether it was requested or not. It just says every message I look at is going to get a receipt, just boom. And finally, the last option, which occasionally somebody wants, is ignore message receipt request on incoming messages, in which case if they request the receipt, you're not notified. There's no pop-up saying, do you want to send a receipt? It simply pretends that it didn't have a receipt request. So the answer to your question is normally a pop-up appears saying the sender requested a message receipt. Do you want to send one? And you can say yes or no. But if you check this box right here, automatically send receipts when requested, then it's automatic without having to respond, without seeing that box or taking any action at all.
I think that pretty well explains it. Okay. Can messages be transparently emailed using shares and marine call signs via Winlink conventional emails?
Let me answer that, please. There is interoperability. This is Steve for CJX. There is interoperability between all services using Winlink. If you are an amateur radio operator and you are WL7COO at winlink.org and you are on the amateur radio frequency, you could email me ncs396 at winlink.org and I would pick it up as a shares station on the shares channels. Likewise with any other service. It's strictly an email address. Now, if I'm a shares member and I get on the ham bands with my shares call sign, no. If I'm a ham and I get on the shares frequencies, no. But as long as you are operating third party in that manner and third party is legal on the ham bands, then there's no issue. And there's no issue because shares is United States of America or its possessions. So the answer to your question is that is how that's accomplished. There was also, I wanted to make sure that the gentleman that was asking about I can't remember, Doug, N0DAG in Arizona, did you get the proper answer to your question or do you want further explanation?
I did not, Steve. And before I go on, I would just like to thank you and Phil and Tom and Mike Burton and all you guys. You do a fantastic job of support. I've been a sysop for quite a few years now, and I've had several problems, and you guys have always helped me out. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Why don't you, thank you. Why don't you, if you didn't get your question answered, why don't you just pose it right now? Because I thought you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, my question is this. I operate a hybrid gateway. And several weeks ago, there was a connection to my gateway, probably a radio only, because it was trying to forward. And it was trying to forward on 30 meters. My radio switched to 30 meters and it was trying to transmit on 30 meters. I don't have a 30-meter antenna and my gateway does not operate 30 meters. And it kind of screwed things up for a while. So that's my question. Do you have an answer for that?
Yes, Phil
Yes,
has,
we do. Yeah, we do. We do.
Phil has a chart that he can show you maybe. I don't know whether he can show you without a
No,
note.
I got it, Steve.
Okay.
There are options on RMS Relay to limit the frequency range that it can transmit in. And I just have to figure out which screen it is because there's so many screens here.
Frequency restrictions.
Yeah, I think that's it. Frequency restriction. Thank you. Settings. Hold on. Frequency restrictions. Here we go. You can specify ranges of addresses with lower to upper and specify one per line. And there are some built in if you're a ham, which automatically keep you legal in ham legal frequencies. But you can modify that so that you exclude some frequencies. If you don't have a 30 meter, I think it was 30 meter, you said, antenna or whatever, you don't have a 160, you can limit what frequencies it's allowed to transmit on.
Does that
Thank
answer
you. Thank you, Phil. Thanks
Okay.
again. You guys are fantastic. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, let's go on to more questions. Someone wants to learn more about using templates and forms. Also, more in-depth on modifying existing forms, adding from new. Is there a good resources on the net to read about this?
Is Mike Burton on tonight?
No, but Greg is here. But let me
Oh, Greg, okay.
let me make a suggestion. That could take all night. My recommendation would be to go to the Winlink support page and join the Winlink programs group. And people who know all about templates, including some that are here, and even the designer of the templates, are hovering over that reflector like vultures, waiting for questions to so that they can answer them. Because in the reflector, when you answer a question for one person, just like here, others benefit. So being that you have don't have a real specific question about a specific template, my recommendation would be to go that direction. If Phil, you want to cover the general template?
Well, only let me say this. Obviously, we have a large number and an ever-growing number of common templates that Mike and Greg create, and they're doing a great job on those. But you can also make custom templates that are associated with your call sign, and you can have global templates which are similar to call sign templates, but they override the standard templates for all call signs. So if you make a custom template, then you can use it, and that overrides the standard templates. But not many people do that because getting into templates, especially if you want to have HTML forms associated, is quite complicated unless you're a very skilled HTML programmer like Greg is. I don't recommend trying to mess with them.
Okay, yeah.
I'll just add one question. I'll just add one thing, and that's that if you do want to get into it, it's very well documented in the Winlink Express help.
Okay. Can you explain message pickup stations again, and how it's configured?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I neglected to explain something which is really important about that. And in Winlink Express, there's an option down here under settings that's called hybrid network parameters. Hybrid network parameters. Let me open that up and look at it. Yeah, I better do that. This is where you specify your message pickup stations. You can have, we allow up to 3, but ordinary users only need 2, and we request that you only choose 2 because that's enough. It's a primary and a backup, and if you have a third one, that just adds more traffic to the network, getting a copy of the message to the third one. You can, it'll prompt you to update the list of available RMSs that you can use as message pickup stations if you haven't done it in a long time. You can display a list of all the eligible message pickup stations, and this is on the ham side. These are all the hybrid RMSs that can be used as message pickup stations. And then here you choose from the list what you want as your message pickup station. You know, all the possibilities are listed here. And then once you have chosen the ones you want, you click register MPS via internet. And that sends this information, in my case, N5TW and BE1YZ that I've selected, it registers that with a CMS. Once every 24 hours, all hybrid RMSs connect to a CMS and download a database of all the message pickup stations that have been registered. They only do that once a day. So when you register your MPSs, figure that it's going to take 24 hours for all the RMSs in the world to download that information and get themselves set up knowing what your MPSs are. So you can't register and then immediately send a radio-only message to yourself or have someone else send a radio-only message to you. It won't work because the RMSs don't know about it. So register them and then give it 24 hours and then you can use them. So this, go ahead.
Talk about, in other words, if you are using standard Winlink and you have a radio-only message, you won't know that because it will not pick it up. They're two separate systems. So Phil has designed something, he can tell you about it.
Yeah, okay. Yes, what Steve's talking to is this bottom field down here, where it says send email notification to these addresses when a radio-only message is received. And what Steve is saying here is that, you know, if someone sends a radio-only message to you and it gets transferred and is stored on your MPSs, how do you know? Well, I mean, if you do daily checks, radio-only checks for your MPSs to see if you've got radio-only messages pending, that's fine. But if you don't do radio-only checks, you'll never know. So what we've done is added a field here where you can specify one or more email addresses, and these should be conventional. Well, they don't have to be conventional. It could be Winlink, but typically they're conventional, regular internet type email addresses.
Or text.
Yeah, you can use like the BZE text or whatever it is for Verizon, and whatever it is for AT&T. You can have it text you. So when a radio-only message arrives at your MPS, the MPS station sends an email to you telling you that you have pending messages, radio-only messages to pick up, and it tells you which MPS has received them. So it's a very useful feature to let you know that it's time to do a radio-only check and pick up your radio-only messages.
Okay. I think that's a good enough explanation. Are peer-to-peer Winlink emails shown on the radio message viewer?
No, they would be shown in your inbox. When you receive a radio-only message, it goes directly from Winlink Express on one computer to Winlink Express on another computer. So they're not shown on anything except for the inbox of the receiving computer and the sent messages of the sending computer.
Phil, he's talking about the message viewer.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and in that case, yes, they are. The peer-to-peer messages are uploaded by the gateway stations in order to make sure that we have all the amateur radio frequency traffic documented.
Okay. Someone asked about robust packet peer-to-peer, but Gordon seems to have answered that in the chat.
Phil, would it be better rather than Barry doing that, that one of your people read those questions? Because it might be faster to weed through them.
I'm not sure how to read them. Let's see here.
No, I was thinking of Laura or some of the others that are reading them. You stay where you are.
Okay.
I'll be happy to do it.
Okay, do that. Barry, that would relieve you from a little bit of the stress there, and maybe we can wait through them a little bit.
Okay, and then we can get to the people that have their hands up.
Okay, as a radio-only message is moving from the source RMS to a destination MPS, is the message ever routed back to an RMS through which it has already passed?
No, there is a path statement in the message, and every RMS it passes through has its call sign and it's the time appended to that string. That does two things. One is it will never go back, it never route back through an RMS that is on that list. So to prevent it from getting routed back into a loop, that would never happen because it keeps track of the ones it's gone through. The second thing is when you receive a radio-only message, you can look at that and you can see the path it took getting to you, and it has the time stamp for each one it went through. So if there's some big delay, you can see where the delay was.
You want to talk about ping?
Sure. If you want to do some testing of radio only, you can send a message, send it. Now you must send it as radio only. So choose radio only. For the two, you put the call sign of an RMS. You're not sending the message to an individual user. You're sending the message to an RMS.
By the way, somebody asked the next question, what is an RMS?
Okay, radio message server. It is a gateway station. It's the bridge between you and a CMS. It receives incoming radio connections from Winlink Express and makes an internet connection up to a CMS. So it's a gateway station connecting incoming radio connections to internet going up to the common message server CMS.
Larry,
Steve, let me finish up the ping before we go on. So if I'm going to do a ping to, let's say, N5TW, Tom Whiteside's RMS, I put that, the call sign, again, this is the RMS, not Tom, not going to Tom, it's going to his RMS. And the subject, I do a /PING/. You can leave the body of the message empty, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that /PING/. I've selected radio only message. I post that to the outbox and send it as a radio only message into any RMS I can get into. It goes as an RMS message. It's forwarded to the N5TW RMS. When RMS relay on N5TW sees the incoming ping message, it automatically sends a response back to the sender, and the response shows the path in both directions, the path the ping took to the RMS and the return path. It provides some information about the RMS you pinged. So it's a way of testing if you have a radio-only path between you and a particular RMS. Okay, that's it on ping, unless somebody has a question.
Okay, I wanted to, Larry in California asked, what is an RMS? The RMSs are a server that's connected to our backbone where all the messages are stored and input and output occurs. And if you think of it as a station that scans several frequencies on several bands, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, maybe 3 or 4 seconds on each frequency. And I know it's going to be there because there's a list of them that I can choose from. And there's a list that gives me good propagation, mediocre propagation, and no propagation. And it's just a guide. It's not the Bible. It's just a guide. Sometimes it's very accurate and sometimes it's not. But it is a pretty good guide. So I call one of those stations. When I connect to it, it stops. It takes my traffic. It provides traffic to me from the common message server, our backbone, and then it hangs up and it continues on to scan for the next station. That is what a radio message server is in our system. In the normal Winlink, if you think of a bicycle hub, at the center hub is our common message server where everything takes place. On the end by the tire on each spoke is a radio message server. They're all redundant. They're all the same. So I could take a message in on one, propagation goes away. I can pick another message up on another. It doesn't matter. They're all redundant. With radio only, that's not the case. That's why you have to designate which messages, which radio message servers you want to utilize, so that the system will, and let it know ahead of time, so the system will know where to send each message. In that case, the RMS has a database for messages, and they're stored locally. So you have two separate systems. One is a normal Winlink, which bridges to the internet. The other is a radio-only system that does not recognize the internet. Thank you, Phil. Okay, next question. Any plans for standard keyboard shortcuts? Control N for new, Control R for reply, Control capital R for reply.
Yeah, we actually, we've got a few. They're in the help file. I can't remember what they are, but there are a few keyboard shortcuts to do things, and they are in the help file.
When all else fails, read the help.
Yeah.
Okay, robust packet was provided by some SCS modems, but very few people use it. I think I heard of one group using it. Okay, somebody asked about a robust packet. That is dated, in my opinion, and is not as capable on HF because of the symbol rates, not as capable as is Vera, RDOP, packet, and those OFDM protocols. So the answer to the question is, I would not consider it. How do I configure Winlink Express to receive P2P peer-to-peer messages?
Oh, it's very simple. If you still have my screen, I assume my peer screen is still being displayed. All I do is open a P2P session. Let's see here. Oh, let's pick one. Let's say it's going to complain because it doesn't have a radio, but I selected packet P2P, open the session. It's upset because I don't have a packet modem connected. But now, as long as this session is open here, sitting there, I'm receptive to incoming P2P connections. So of course, I have to choose the frequency, and the person calling me has to know what frequency I'm sitting on and monitoring. And then they just make a call on the frequency I'm monitoring to W4PHS. And if I have this P2P session open, I'll receive the incoming call.
Okay, thank you. Gary has a question. Is there any gateway that will enable a Winlink user using Winlink Express to pass a message to an MBEMS user using SLDigi? If that user can interface into the internet, yes. If that user does not have internet email or the standard IETF RFC for SMTP mail, the answer is no. That is usually the protocols are also very different. So there's no common protocol between the two. Does that sound right, Phil?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. And basically there's no compatibility between FLDigi and Winlink.
And that they're both text messages, maybe you could copy and paste, but he's asking, is there a gateway that will enable a Winlink user to pass messages to a MBEMS?
Not unless there's some sort of email type gateway.
What would happen if Amazon servers went down either by deliberate action or fault? Would Winlink message stall?
Well, it'd be a lot of unhappy people because everybody's waiting for their packages. But other than that, we've got redundancy. We've got one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. So it would have to be a pretty major hit. But Laura, you want to comment?
We also have...
Yeah, there's a third CMS system that's always synchronized, that is on standby, ready to switch in, that is at a server farm out in San Diego, California. And we can have it up and running within a few minutes as soon as Amazon goes down.
Has anybody ever seen Amazon go down for more than 2 minutes?
Yes, but not East Coast and West Coast.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. where are the CMSs these days? Okay, I can answer the answer to your question was just given. In the past, we had different CMSs in different countries that were not virtual but actual machines. The CMSs we have today are virtual, meaning that I don't know whether or not there's an actual machine sitting there or blade in a server room that has our processes on it, or whether it boots around. Nobody knows, I don't think. But to answer your question, the Amazon AWS, Amazon Cloud, is where our CMS system is today. And that was from Aaron, KK4EHJ in Georgia.
Just to add to that, Steve, the CMS systems are flexible and automatically scale up to operate on multiple virtual servers if necessary. And they also can, they're divided up into regions. And so we don't know exactly which data center would be hosting the hardware that the virtual server runs in, but we know that one is on the East Coast, one is on the West Coast. We may have 2 or 3 on the East Coast if necessary, and more numbers on the West Coast. Also, most of that's driven by traffic levels. So it's all automatic. This is why we moved to the AWS system. It's much more bulletproof, much more modern, and much more reliable than operating with manually maintained hardware servers like we did in the past.
Thank you. Will you show how to choose an RMS station? You don't have a Pactor modem, so you can't do that, can you?
I'm sorry, say that question again, please.
They want to know, how do you choose an RMS station? Will you show?
Oh, I can show you. It's going to be, I'm going to get some complaints because of the not having a radio, but I can do it. Let's do a Pactor Winlink. No, let's do a VARA. I think I can do VARA because it's a sound card protocol, VARA HF. Let's open that. It'll launch VARA, and it doesn't need a radio. It doesn't need a modem. So let's see what it says. Oh, there we go. Okay. Up here, first I've opened the VARA, in this case, a VARA Winlink session. I could have opened a Pactor Winlink session or some of the other modes when I chose VARA. All of the HF sessions have this channel selector option. Let me click it. And then it suggests that I download, I haven't done this in a long time, so it wants to download the list of stations and update it. So it's doing it now. Now it's computing the propagation estimates. It'll take about 20 seconds or so, maybe 30. A lot faster than it used to be. Okay, now select this column over here, and it's sorted by the estimated path quality in descending order. And you can see right now it's mostly selecting 80 meters. There's a 40 meter down here. And as I scroll down, you can see the path quality is gradually getting lower. Generally, anything over 40 is feasible. I mean, here's a Canadian station that I should be able to get into. It's in the lower range, but still not bad. Here's a Mexican station I can get to, another Mexican station. So, I mean, look at all these options I have to connect to. All of these should be feasible connections if you have a reasonable antenna and radio. So, back on the issue of, what if you're in a no internet zone? Well, gosh, I have, dozens of RMSs I can connect to. So, I pick one, let's say N2LEE, I double click it, and it has set N2LEE as the station to call. It has automatically set the frequency of that channel. And it has, assuming my radio is connected, it would have tune the radio to that frequency. So that's how you choose a channel frequency and a station to connect to.
I'll add that over time, your experience with various stations is something that you want to rely upon. And there's a neat little feature there where you can add a station to favorites and then have your favorite list of stations that you find to be very reliable over time that you can use from just as rote. This is important because on HF, the propagation estimates may show that you have a very favorable path between your station and another. You need to try it to see if it really happens. The other station may have a directional antenna that's pointed exactly so that its null is in your direction, and you have a very slim chance of actually connecting there. So there is experience that you have to build up, and the favorites thing there is something that you want to rely upon. Use it, and it's very helpful.
Thank you. There's a question here from KK6RJR, Richard. My question is about RMS stations acting as radio-only holding messages. Is it necessary to check occasionally if the station I have selected are still participating? A while back, I chose 2 stations to notice that selecting radio-only station for a client on one of the stations was not listed. However, when he tested the actual stations, everything seemed fine. If a station is not there and you requested for an MPS, it is not going to allow you to do that. The station could come back on the air and everything would be fine. On the ham bands, there has to be, in my opinion, there has to be some coordination between a station and MPS. There has to be an RMS that has a hybrid system should check his MPS users, which he can do on his software, his program, his RMS program. He can check to determine who his MPS users are and maybe send him a message that he's going to be on vacation for 2 weeks and it's lightning like the devil out there every night and he's shutting his station down. On the shares side, if a person shuts down, there's notifications that go all over the place. And even though the man might have done it or a woman might have done it intentionally, everybody who is involved in the system gets notified via an email alert message. That is up to the RMS SysOp to put in the offline notification should they go off the air. If I had a station and had 5 or 6 or 10 MPS users, I would get their email address and put them in the offline notification so that they would know when I was off the air. Remembering now that the radio-only system has never, ever had to be used because there was no internet available. So, you know, we use it because it's interesting and it's a lot of fun, and but the necessity of it in terms of emergency services has yet to be proven. Does that answer your question, Richard? Okay, I have a huge number.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Let's take a break here real quick and pick up some of these. We got 3 people that's had their hands up quite a while.
Okay.
If you don't mind, let's pick those up. Jim Pierce, the K06GM, you want to give us your question?
Yeah, it's Jim Price. This is, I think, probably, well, let's see. I'll just state the question. So I'm running a gateway, an RMS, and I want to use that. Let's say I want to use that RMS to send a message. What I have to do right now is I have to close out tri-mode, close out RMS relay, bring up RMS Express, Winlink Express, and then send a message so that I don't get COM port conflicts. I think there's a way that you can configure the RMS Express to use Telnet to go through RMS Relay to send a message out through the gateway. Maybe comment on that.
Sure. Of course, the simplest thing, assuming you have internet, would be to make a Telnet connection to a CMS. I assume you want to send, there's a reason why you want this to go out by radio, Jim, rather than going by Telnet?
Well, just to check and see if it will. Obviously, I can use Telnet, right?
Okay, well, we've got a couple of options here. We've got, of course, we've got this option. Where is it? Hold on. Telnet radio only. If I open a Telnet radio only session, then it makes a connection to RMS Relay in a radio only type connection to RMS Relay. If I send radio only messages into RMS Relay with this Telnet connection, so this is Telnet going from Express on this computer into RMS Relay on this computer. And the messages are coming in as radio only messages. When RMS Relay receives them, then it's going to treat them as radio only messages and forward them via radio only forwarding to other RMSs. Now there's another feature called, if you use the regular Telnet, let's see, hold on, Telnet Winlink, if you open that up and go under settings, you can check this box, which tells it the Telnet connection, it's not a radio only connection, it's a conventional Telnet connection, but instead of going directly to a CMS, it's to go into RMS Relay. Now, if RMS Relay on your computer has an internet connection, it's going to be passed right through RMS Relay and go to a CMS. So this, if Relay has a Telnet connection, has an internet connection, is going to go right through it. It's essentially equivalent to a regular Telnet connection to a CMS. It just has the overhead of going through RMS Relay and then having the packets forwarded on to a CMS. So both of those connect to RMS Relay. The only one which is going to force a message via radio would be radio only, unless you tell RMS Relay to simulate an internet outage. If I go into operating mode and down here at the bottom, simulate internet outage, if I check that, then that turns off the internet from RMS Relay. Let me save it that way. Now it says radio network down here in the bottom. If I send a conventional message via Telnet into RMS Relay with internet disabled, then Relay would forward that message by radio to another RMS to reach a CMS. So that's, that's kind of a complicated answer because it's a complicated set of choices here to make it happen.
Well, Phil, thank you. That's exactly why I couldn't type the question in.
Right. So it can be done. It's a little awkward. It's not exactly clear what you're going to accomplish by doing that.
Well, the reason is because I only have one Pactor modem, and right now it's on the gateway, and so if I want to check my antenna or anything like that, it'd be nice to,
Well, okay, send a ping radio only. Create a ping message to some RMS. Use the feature in Winlink Express. Hold on. Go down here, not RMS Relay, but open the, where's radio only? Down at the bottom. Create a radio only ping message. Open a Telnet radio only connection to RMS Relay. Send the ping message into RMS Relay through a radio only Telnet, and then RMS Relay will treat it as a radio only message. It will forward it out via Pactor or VARA and begin its path to the destination RMS.
Great, super. That's exactly what I wanted to know about. That gives me lots of options. Thanks, Phil.
Okay.
Okay, let's pick up another one here. Joe in Hawaii, you want to pick it up?
Well, thanks, Dan and Phil. I'm interested in the question of synchronization of gateways via Arden mesh. And in,
Yes.
in particular, let's say I have one gateway whose internet is down and it's synchronizing with another VHF gateway that has internet. Would the traffic flow automatically to CMS?
Yeah, that's kind of a complicated scenario. Let's talk about synchronization in general. Winlink or RMS Relay has pretty extensive support for mesh post offices, supported by Arden, Arden or internet connections or combinations of them. And one of the things you can do is automatically synchronize messages across those mailboxes. So if a message goes into one mailbox that's part of the system that has RMS Relay set up to do synchronization, then that message will be automatically forwarded around and synchronized with all of the other mesh post office stations. And similarly, if something's red, it'll be marked as red everywhere. If it's deleted, it'll be deleted from all of them. So it's a synchronization, real-time synchronization between all the mesh post offices. That's configured in RMS Relay on the settings, synchronized messages over network screen. That's this one right here. And it looks like this. And you can add the mesh post offices that you want synchronized here. And there are various options that are associated. You can have passwords and do all sorts of things. Now, the case that you're describing where you want to have a message go out, let me think about that. I'm going to have to ponder that a little bit and think about exactly how it's going to work, because the message is going to be synchronized. The question is it going to, when it gets synchronized to an RMS that has a radio, is it going to be forwarded out by radio? And obviously we don't, if there are like 3 or 4 RMSs that have radios, we don't want all of them to send it out. So, you know, I'm not sure the answer to that. I'm going to have to think about it, honestly. What you're trying to accomplish, I think, is that you can put a message into one message pickup station, I'm sorry, message post office, and have it synchronized over to another one and sent out by radio. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and this would be a conventional Winlink, like a conventional Winlink message, email message, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, a VHF station connects to a gateway whose internet is down. It synchronizes to another VHF gateway, which has RMS relay in it that is connected to an HF station also. So whether or not at that point, when it arrives at that station, whether it would be attempted to connect to.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think so, but I better think about that a little bit, what it's going to do, because, you know, it could get complicated because you might have 3 or 4 RMSs that are part of the synchronized network, and we don't want all of them sent out by radio.
Well, I appreciate the answer, because if it's confusing for you.
It is. I mean, this was really designed as a tool to synchronize message post offices over mesh, and to keep the message post office message database synchronized. It really wasn't designed as a gateway to get out by RF.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil.
Okay.
Okay, let's pick up Gary in South Carolina real quick.
Hi, good evening. I'm new to this, only into it about a week or so. Before that, someone gave me a Cantronics CAM, K-A-M-T-N-C, I have it hooked up to HF, VHF, or my ICOM IC7100, and an old XP laptop in terminal mode. Now, getting into Winlink, will this still be usable, or will I end up trashing it?
I don't know, Steve, do you know what that
You want
is?
an honest answer? You'll end up trashing it because what you're doing is you're using Pactor 1, a simulated version or reverse engineered version of Pactor 1 that is got a top speed of maybe 200 words per minute. When you're looking at something like Vera, which is 45, 5,500, 6,500 words per minute, or Pactor 4, similarly, very few, in my opinion, an RMS that allows Pactor 1 and Pactor 2 is strictly a hobby machine rather than being a message machine. And because of that, you can find RMSs and tinker around with it, but that's just going to get you interested. So you might as well, it's like any other hobby. I wish I'd bought the best when I started. So my advice would be to check something like Vera before you use your packet or your CAM TNC. Also, I think you're going to have to use Airmail with a CAM, which is another client that's usable with Winlink that really hasn't been updated for about 9 years now. I would suggest that you try another protocol using a sound card, and you can get a lot of information about all of that. Very inexpensive on the Winlink Programs Group Reflector that you can join from our support page. Jim Price had his hand raised and has.
By the way, we don't run on XP anymore. You've got to have at least Vista and forward, but not XP.
Yes, I run Windows 10 Professional for Winlink. But like I say, it's new when I had this, and I was totally aware of the speed deficit over the CAM TNC. But then again, I see that pull-down menus have the word TNC in it. So I thought maybe I have to keep this around.
Well, there's no memory ARQ. There's a lot of different aspects to this thing that make it really obsolete. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you really need to use switch to VAR sound card.
Okay. Yeah, the IC7100 has a sound card, and I used Ham Radio Deluxe successfully with it. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Surely. Jim Price?
Yeah, Steve, Phil already answered my question.
Okay. Dan, you want to go ahead? I guess.
Well, let's pick up some from the tech side of it. So go ahead there, Steve.
All right. Let's see. Can acknowledgements be customized?
No, they have standard format. I mean, you could always send a reply. You send a reply with anything you want in it, just saying, thank you for your kind message. I'm happy to receive it, and so forth, so on. But the standard acknowledgement has a fixed format.
Automated acknowledgement is fixed.
Yeah.
If I reply to a message, can the original sender respond to my reply?
Yes. Yes, you can go back and forth.
Just like regular email?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to get a shares call sign for a hybrid gateway without a municipal partnership? No. Shares does not solicit people. Shares solicit members' agencies and ask the member agency to consider amateur radio operators, since they have by then intuition about propagation. As it was said earlier today, propagation is an art and it takes a lot of experience. So the answer to that question would be find a member agency. Can you describe a little more about message routing through multiple hops? There's a lot of questions about that. How does a relay station know the correct next hop?
Yeah, it's a complicated process. The core of it is the same algorithm that's used by a GPS unit to compute the optimum route between, let's say, Nashville and New York City. You know, based on the speed of the roads, you know, the length of the roads, and which route out of all the possibility ways you go, which route is the fastest to get from Nashville to New York. I mean, that's the core of the algorithm. However, it gets more complicated when you're dealing with radio links than with roads. With roads, I mean, unless there's some sort of a disaster like a flood or overturned tanker, you pretty well know what the speeds are, more or less. In the case of Waze, it even gets updated in real time from people driving those roads. But in the case of RF, you've got propagation issues, and the propagation is going to be changing from time to time. You've got frequency compatibility, like your station might not be able to use a frequency that the other station could use. So we've got to match up the frequencies and use only the common ones. Then the station might be busy, and so it has to retry that station, or it might be down, in which case it retries it a few times and then has to choose an alternate path to get around it. So it's the code that does the route calculation is very complicated. It takes consideration many factors. You know, someone asked earlier, can it route back to a previously visited RMS? The answer is no. So one of the many factors it considers is the path it's already gone through to make sure it doesn't go back on a path that would get it there. In the case of long distances, it actually anticipates when messages will reach each RMS on the path. I mean, looking forward or thinking forward, simulating it, and then trying to figure out what the propagation would be at that time in the future when the message receives that RMS and what would happen when it got there, how it could route forward. So each RMS that it goes through does this entire calculation to compute the optimum route from it to the destination. And then when the message reaches the next RMS on the path, that RMS repeats the whole process, saying, okay, now I've got it, it's my responsibility. I'm going to do that calculation again because things might have changed from what they were earlier. So I'm going to do the calculation again. So every RMS recalculates the best path from it to the destination using lots and lots of factors. Is it factor 4? Is it factor 3? Is it VARA? What's the speed? What's the propagation? Time of day? All sorts of things go into it, and it does the best it can.
Thank you. Greg, are you here? Template Greg? I thought I saw Greg here earlier.
This is Greg.
Greg, there's a question for you. Can your team make hospital beds available more generic, change names, add more hospital units, need more care units? The template. This is from Paul KD7 ISA in Oregon.
Well, currently, if you look under the templates, I think it's general medical. There is a hospital template, and it has the option to customize the agency or the hospital you're working with, and you can add 2 more categories of beds, if that's helpful. Is that the question?
Yeah, it says, can your team make the hospital beds available more generic, change names, add more hospital units, need more care units? I'll tell you what, Paul, if you go to the Winlink programs group, contact Greg there. I bet you he can, and you all can get into this more specifically, but the answer to the question is yes. It just depends on to what extent.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Oh, you're welcome.
Greg is the man who produces our templates, and I don't know him very well, but he certainly knows what he's doing. It's obvious. He's out there in California with Oliver. They've got him cornered. Our citywide CERT network and EOC are only active in a disaster situation. We do not have HF or internet access. Can we run Winlink Express to a local RMS relay that is standalone? We are using 70 centimeters NPR-70 packet between locations. So what are you, John K9ONR in California, can you come on here and explain what it is you're asking?
We are trying to convert from, thank you all very much. We are trying to convert from manual messaging to an email between CERT locations and our EOC. The network would only be up if CERT is activated, the EOC is activated. So this is emergency communications only, and only in such disaster situations. The question is, can we use this wonderful functionality of Winlink and perhaps RMS relay, but only on a local basis?
Yes,
we have
you can.
no way of getting.
Yeah.
I noticed there's an operational status in RMS relay that says local only.
That's correct.
Is that the way it is?
It can serve as a message repository, a common sort of a mailbox. So you could have a packet station connected to RMS relay, and then have packet clients scattered around that connect to it. They deposit messages into RMS relay using the call sign of the recipient, and then the recipient connects to that RMS relay. They're pulled back down from the RMS relay database. So
You need
RMS relay operating just as a local mail server with packet connections could do what you want, I think.
That's wonderful, thank you.
You could also use RMS packet with RMS relay and hub that sort of store and forward with clients everywhere that are reachable to that VHF or whatever it is.
Right, that's what we're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you would need RMS packet if you're using.
Yes. You need packet to do the radio control, and
Right.
packet is configured to connect to RMS relay, which performs the message storage function.
Got it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure. When it is appropriate, if ever, to click on reset path in RMS relay for a radio-only message that is seemingly stuck or not moving onward toward the destination MPS?
Well, that's a very rare condition that you could try that. That just sort of says, look, you forget everything that we know about that, start fresh. In that case, it would be able to send it back through RMS. It's gone through it. It basically says, look, just take this message like it was originating here and do the best you can to get it to the recipient.
Yeah, I have people ask me, Phil, I've had these messages in here for 10 days and they're not going anywhere, and they're not transmitting any longer. They're not attempting any longer. What should I do with the messages?
Well, I would suggest deleting it, frankly. It may be that the destination, well, it may be it's been forwarded around so many times that it finally has given up. There's a limit on the number of times a message can be passed around radio only before it just says, forget it.
Or there's no MPS for the end user.
Well, no, it won't do that. If it's no MPS, it won't originally, it won't try to send it at all. But if the MPS is down, and totally down, maybe it's gone off the air, then, it can try and try and try, but it ultimately is not going to reach it. And so to prevent it from being passed around infinite number of times, eventually it would try passing it around Australia to see if Australia could get it there. So in order to prevent that, there's a limit, I forgot what it is, I don't know, 8 or so hops maximum, and then it gives up.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn, K6COB in Los Angeles asks, I sent a test radiogram to my son. I received an acknowledgement from RRI-Region 6, whatever that is, but my son never received the radiogram. Why does this happen? Maybe your son wasn't home when they called him and they gave up. I don't know. But if you sent a radiogram, how did you address the radiogram, Carolyn, to your son? Is Carolyn here? I guess Carolyn's not here any longer. If I'm not mistaken, that radiogram would not go directly to your son. It would go to somebody who delivers it. And if that's the case, we've done our part.
Yeah, next time send him a, so you use the email, use his email address next time.
Right.
A little info on the radiograms.
All right.
Yeah, there are a list of liaison stations in the RRI radiogram composer, and it goes to those. They pick them up, and they are supposedly distributed to the next message hub so that it gets down to the local level. And people pick them up. They shouldn't pick them up unless they're going to work at delivering the message, and if they don't, they generally will send a message back.
Yeah, so that's not a Winlink question. That's a
no. It's an RRI question.
Right. Somebody asked, Carolyn asked, what is Pactor? But Carolyn isn't here, so I'm moving on. How do you choose an RMS if the HF channel selector cannot connect to the internet and has not been updated?
You can update it by radio.
Right.
Or I mean, RMSs don't change that often. You know, if it's been updated within the last 6 months, it's probably good enough.
This is from Greg Williams. Is there a place online where all of these seminars will be available for later viewing? Dan?
When I send out the videos and stuff, I always send out the links to all the different the previous ones, so they can see the one that we have right now on the present video, and they can go backwards and see the others. So just keep the copies of those, and they'll always know where they're at.
Okay. John W6JMK asked, where can I find information about how an RMS works when its internet connection fails? For example, how does it handle users who request to receive messages addressed to them? There are many options. Phil, you want to go over any of these?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Say that one more time.
Where can I find information about how an RMS works when its internet connection fails? For example, how does it handle users who request to receive messages addressed to them?
Well, okay, when you connect to it, it's going to say there is no internet connection. It cannot reach a CMS. So really, for 99.9% of the cases, when you see that message, you should disconnect and not go forward and connect to a different RMS. But if you do go forward, then if RMS Relay is installed, Telnet is now connecting to RMS Relay. You can send a message in, and RMS Relay will forward it via radio to another RMS to get it out. But you will not be able to receive your incoming messages that way.
Right. So you just find an RMS that has internet.
Really, that's right. So when you see the message saying this RMS does not have an internet connection, your message will be delayed. You should, and it says, do you want to continue connecting? You should say no, and then you should connect to one that does have internet.
There have been a lot of questions on this discussion about, what happens when the internet is down. Is this documented somewhere?
I don't know. Probably not.
It depends. There's several options available. You can elect as an RMS. You can elect to hold the message. You can elect to refuse the message and tell the user you're not connected to the internet, go away. You can hold on to the message and then forward it to an RMS that does have internet connectivity. There are 3 or 4 different options available, and it depends on how that RMS is set up. Is it using RMS relay? If it is, how did it configure it? I don't know if Phil wants to get into all of that right now. It's kind of
well, it's too complicated. Look, the simple thing is when you connect to one and it says it doesn't have internet, don't go forward, disconnect, find an RMS that has internet.
right.
So I totally believe it's complicated. That's obvious. Is it documented somewhere?
Nope.
It's documented in the help session on RMS relay. When you're setting the sessions, it tells you what each session is, how each session works. It is documented.
John, are you trying to understand it from a user's perspective or from a network perspective? Are you trying to set up a local network and understand how this works, or just from a user's perspective?
From a network operator's perspective.
Okay. What we've been thinking about is putting together a class regarding configuring a network for different goals and objectives. And that's what this really takes. Until we do that, I would say that your best resources are to participate with other people nationally through the reflectors, to see how other groups have set up their local networks and how they handle the unique little problems of getting a message, say, to all the desks in an EOC, for example. And then how they manage, they may manage a local packet type or Wi-Fi network, and then transition that to a local message store and have options to forward it on to via HF, should there really be a difficulty with a major internet outage. The neat thing about Winlink is that a very simple setup that's used by most RMS operators is that if the internet fails at a gateway station, at an HF gateway station, all the user has to do is send a standard message, and the gateway station takes the responsibility further to either get it to another RMS so that it can get into the internet and then up to the CMS for final distribution, or even make multiple hops and so forth. All of that's transparent. And it contrasts with the type setup that has been discussed a lot here tonight, and that's radio only. Radio only is really a testing mode, and it's fun to play with, and a lot of people love to talk about it and do it, but the standard messaging setup for a really does it all and will handle internet outages on a local and even quite large regional basis.
Thanks. Somebody, Carolyn again, and I don't know whether Carolyn's still. Carolyn, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know why you couldn't hear me, but I'm on my phone now.
Okay. Well, it says I'm understanding correctly that when I select a channel, it automatically programs my radio to the proper frequency, and I don't need to manually input the frequency in my radio. Absolutely correct. If you have configured it for your radio. You have to configure it for your radio, just like you have to configure it for your modem and your antenna. It doesn't do it unless it knows what your radio is, what COM port it's on, whether you're, what is your radio?
I have a Yaesu 7900, and I'm going to Signal Link.
That's an FM radio. That's not going to program that. That's an FM radio.
Okay, so this is, you're not on HF, you're on VHF.
Yes.
Or UHF. Well, you're going to have to set the radio to whatever frequency is available, because it's not going to find the frequency on that radio on VHF. On HF, it does.
Okay.
Well, There are just very few VHF or UHF radios that have the ability to change frequencies by an external control.
Okay, I can put it in myself. Thank you.
Sure. Is it possible to turn off the quote previous message function in replies?
Good question. The answer is no. I mean, I could add an option for that, but the answer right now is no. You can always delete it, of course, if you don't want it.
Okay. I think that's about it, unless.
Steve, let's pick up Mark. He's been having his hand up for a long time.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark?
Yeah, okay. Should be unmuted now. Earlier, Phil, you'd mentioned one of the operators had asked about doing a peer-to-peer message and whether that would be visible on the Winlink message viewer. And you answered that it would, but I don't see how that's possible since no CMS is involved. That's strictly a station-to-station communication, and those stations may or may not be connected to the internet at that point. So yeah. I would.
Okay. Yeah, Winlink Express stores a copy of the message, and the first opportunity has where you're connected to the internet, it sends a copy up to our logging system. So the answer is, I mean, it wouldn't, if you don't have an internet at the time you send it, it wouldn't appear immediately in the log, but later on, maybe the next day, when you have an internet connection, it would be sent up and logged. So it, first opportunity, it's sent up to be logged.
But you would have to run RMS Express or Winlink Express on that computer to
that is correct.
That. Yeah.
Yes, you would. It would have, well, the first time Winlink Express is run, when it has internet and they're pending messages that have not been logged, they get logged.
Oh, okay.
For example, when you update.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you start it.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's all the hands that's been raised.
I think we got the chat covered too, so I think we're good, Dan.
Yeah, let me ask you, are there any questions at all about the catalog? I don't know whether people are aware that there is a catalog with a zillion weather options for receiving weather and receiving other information. And I haven't heard a word about that tonight, but I don't know whether anybody has any questions about it. If you can see what Phil's bringing up here, there is just about every weather outlet in the world, literally, is available, along with help for RMSs, help for end users, ARL information, all kinds of goodies. Anything that we can go get legally and bring back, we do. That's requested. So I guess there's no questions about that in this group. This is
yes. How did you get to that?
Okay, if you run Winlink Express, and there's this option right here, looks like a list. It's next to the bullseye marker. This list icon is catalog request. Open that. And, yeah. And in the left-hand column, you have the different categories. Like here is satellite pictures, sat pics. When I choose that, then in the middle column, I have a list of all the available types of satellite images I can request. And what I do is I pick one and double click it, and it's posted over here. And then all I do is click post request, look in the outbox, and here it is. This is the request for the satellite picture. I send that up to a CMS, conventional message, and then in a few minutes I check and it'll return the satellite image I requested.
How cool is that?
Now, I didn't even know that little button was there. You can also go into settings and drop down and it says catalog.
Yeah. Yeah, the other button next to it is the position report. Oops, I don't have a connected from it. But anyway, you can, if you have a GPS dongle, it'll get the position automatically. Otherwise, you can enter your latitude and longitude and post your position where you are.
And it will show up on the position reports on the Winlink website.
Right.
It says.
This is such a cool tool. Thank you so much, guys. I'm learning so much.
Also, Phil, will you go in the message box and right click on that? A lot of people don't know that's there. No, no, right click on the down in the where your message is. The text box, second one down. Yeah, right click. Yeah, I don't know whether people realize that's there or not, but that is a convenient way to handle those things. Any other questions from anyone? We've dwindled down to 115 people. Everybody knows everything they want to know. Nobody's got any questions.
I want to see how to do this.
I'm sorry?
I think he was speaking with the thoughts going through his mind. A lot of us are saying, how do we do this? And that's what this is all about. We've had some very good sessions here. When we send these things out, I noticed by the hits that goes on our video things that a lot more people that appear normally here look at our videos. So it gets seen by a lot of folks. And I really appreciate the time that Phil and Steve and others have put into these things. It's been a great experience. Phil, yeah, you can drop your box there. Are there any other questions anywhere?
Steve, this is Kevin. Could I offer one little point?
Certainly.
One of the biggest problems that we get from newer users using the catalog is that the catalog that downloads when they install the application is static, but the catalog itself is not. It changes nearly daily. And as soon as you install the software, if you're going to use the catalog, Phil, can you bring that back up and show them how to update? If you can update that catalog before you use it, probably 99% of your problems will go away.
Let's see here. Yeah, good point. So let me get back in the catalog. It's this option right here.
Kevin
update via internet
is our catalog man.
Yeah, so it's this button over here, update via internet. That's what you want. You can update by radio, but internet, if you have internet, it's the way to go. And it updates it with all the new catalog entries.
Yeah, I probably average 2 or 3 messages a day where people are attempting to download a product that I had to remove, usually because the weather service changes server on me, but for a variety of reasons. All right, I'll back out. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
So this catalog has all to do with weather?
No, that has other things too.
Okay.
Just go in and read the list. It's a fascinating list.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Wow, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Carolyn, this is Kevin. If you can read German or Austrian, you can go pick up the equivalent of the ARRL newsletter in German.
Okay.
There's a wide variety of offerings.
This is primarily an amateur radio emergency service group, but there is another group that uses Winlink that's people that travel constantly, maritime mobile, people that are working commercially on ships, missionaries, all kinds of people that need that and that travel and are in remote locations, and they use that catalog extensively.
Wow.
Quick question concerning the test function.
Oh, sure.
Does the word test go in the recipient field or does it go in the subject field?
Are you talking about sending a message to yourself?
Yes, yes.
Okay, just address a message to test@winlink.org, and you put that in the destination.
It wouldn't hurt to put content in the message box also, like this is a test or just something.
Okay. But I was wondering whether the actual word TEST, is that considered to be a recipient or is it considered to be the subject field?
It is a tactical address.
It's a recipient.
Recipient address.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You can
Thank you.
send a message to yourself by using your own email address. I've done that.
Oh, okay. Is that
Through
well,
Winlink.
well, that's what I was. Oh yeah, if you use Telnet, I guess. Were you using Telnet?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Real good.
Yeah,
Thank you for that
was,
information.
I was just testing it out, and I tried to send it using my call sign. It didn't work, like he said, but I sent it to my email address and it went through.
Yeah.
By the way, I wanted to thank those people who are not directly obligated to the Winlink development team or committed to any of this, but do this because of their love of it, like Oliver, for example, and many others. I wanted to say we are grateful for your participation, and it makes our job a heck of a lot easier. So from the development team, and thank you very much. That's it, Dan. I guess we're complete unless somebody has a final question.
I think that's where we're at. We're going to wrap this baby up. I thank everybody. Kevin, I'm glad we finally got you in here, and appreciate it. I'm sorry there wasn't more questions on the catalog, but Steve and Phil covered that pretty good, and you did too. Okay, folks, unless there's something more, speak up or say goodbye because I'm going to close the session down.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you all in 73.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Steve, thank you, and Laura and everybody so much. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan, and thanks for posting the chats when you post these. It's wonderful.